Hey, welcome back to Binomial Physics. In this video, we're going to continue with 3.5, multiplying, dividing polynomials by a monomial. So in the last video, if not videos, we've talked about the fact that only how do I say this? Like symbols affect one another. And when I say symbols, I mean the numbers affect the numbers and the variables affect the variables. It's as if I have a treatment for this disease. This target is specific, and this cure treats that disease. Or in the context of the game that I introduced, which is Star Realms, each fraction affects only their own fraction and not other fractions. So it's just like here, when we deal with the numbers and the variables, the target is specific. So let's continue. In the last example, we were doing multiplying. In this video, we will do some division and as well as some mixed examples. So let's begin. All right. So when we deal with these cases, this is just dividing a monomial by a monomial. This is not too bad. We don't have to use any sort of distributive property yet. But again, let's practice. The numbers affect the numbers. So that's going to give us 8 divided by 4. This is going to be 2. The variables are going to affect the variables. I get x squared divided by x. So x squared divided by x, don't forget x has an imaginary 1 exponent. 2 minus 1 for using our exponent laws is just x to the power of 1. Or just x for that matter. And sometimes when I cancel out, when I do my work, how I show it, this is how I do it. I take my red here, I go bam, bam, that's going to give me 2. And then one of the 2's cancel out with this x, and that leaves me with 2x, okay? So if I had to do that, for example, b, this is what it would look like. 10 and the 2 go away, that gives me a 5. One of the 2's cancels out with the one of the m's down here, and I'm left with 5m. So, sorry, I will do this, I will write the answer, but then I will do this more step by step, okay? So, again, my numbers divided by my numbers, 10 divided by 2 is going to give me 5. And then my m squared divided by my m is going to give me m to the power 1 or just m, okay? So, hopefully this is recalling back some of the stuff you learned before, and just so you remember, this is kind of like 10, and breaking 10 down, I could write that as 10 as 5 times 2, and then m times m at the top, and I have 2m on the bottom. So remember, anything that's multiplying one another on the top of a division symbol and versus the bottom, these can all cancel out. The 2 m goes away, the m and the m go away, and the 2 and the 2 go away. I'm left with 5m, okay? So that's hopefully more broken down. All right, enough of that. I'm gonna be more, I won't be doing things as, slowly, okay? So, going through this, I now have a binomial divided by a monomial. So again, if we like to just write it all out, okay, then this is what it would look like. Why is that in the way? So I have negative 6w squared divided by 3w. Okay, I keep the sign here, so that is plus 9w over 3w, just like this. And then I can I can go ahead and deal with all the numbers separately from the variables. So I have negative 6 and 3. Negative 6 divided by 3 gives me negative 2. Okay, fine. We'll do one term at a time. W squared divided by w gives me 1w, because one of the w's go away. Then I am on the other side, I have plus, and 9 divided by 3 is going to give me 3. W divided by w is going to give me zippo, nothing. So that's it. That's the answer for C, 3C, okay? Okay, so now that we've done some basic examples, I am going to give you, let's see. All right, how about this? I think you can do all the examples, especially A, all the way up to F, and save the last 3 for myself. I might do 1 and you do 1 and whatnot, but please do A to F. Good time to pause the video and do A to F. Okay, so I will go ahead and do this. I don't know, are you comfortable with me doing things in one step now? Maybe not. Alright, fine. I'm gonna still do it step by step. But I'm gonna write it out, and I hate it when the division sign is like that. I like top and down, because later on when you go into advanced math, everything is gonna look like this, and unlike the one that you're seeing. Alright, so I get negative 16n divided by negative 8n. Again, the numbers treat the numbers. This is going to give me positive 2. And then n is just going to cancel out with n. So that's just 2. Yay! Done! The next one is B. So this is already in that format. Very convenient. Negative 24 divided by negative 8 is going to be 3. And guess what? D squared divided by D squared, same thing divided by itself, is just going to cancel out. Doesn't even matter. I don't even care about what the exponent is. They're just the same thing. So there you go, 3. Okay, next one is C. If I have to rewrite this out, then I'm going to get 30k squared over negative 6k. I'm going to keep that negative sign, 18k divided by negative 6k. And again, when I solve this out, the top number to number, 30 divided by negative 6 gives me negative 5. Then I deal with the variables independently. 4k divided by 4k, that's just one of the k's going away. And then, last but not least, I get minus 18 divided by negative 6. Since if I just treat this minus sign at the top as a negative sign, so negative 18 divided by negative 6, I'm going to be left with plus 2. Actually, no, sorry, 3. My goodness, can't even do multiplication. So I have plus 3, and the k's cancel out. So that's it. That's all that I'm left with. I get negative 5k plus 3. That's it. Okay, moving forward. And again, I'm going to write this out. I get 8h times negative g minus 5g times negative g. Okay, I just took the constant and put it afterwards. Maybe that's easier. Yeah, well, it's probably better to do it that way. Okay, so again, here I have 8, and technically there's a negative 1 there, but really I just need that negative symbol, so that's just going to be negative 8. The variables I have nothing to do with. H and G are just separate things, but don't forget I should write them in alphabetical order. So that's A, B, C, D, F, G, H. Okay, sometimes you tend to forget. But yes, if you have a baby, then you should know that very well. Anyway, so negative 8GH. Next up is our second term. So that's our negative 5. And don't forget this negative sign, which I will apply both of them in my number. So then that's going to be left with a plus 5. And then, hey, look, there's a G and a G, a double G. Sorry. Good game. So that is G times G. This is just G squared. Okay. Oh, that's funny. Maybe I should write that as a joke. GG equals good game. All right. Next up, let's write this out. We have, let's put the negative 2g in front. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, whichever way, but essentially, I'm distributing them to all of my terms. So I'll just leave it there, just so we're getting used to seeing where the monomial is being placed. So I'm going to have here negative 5 times negative 2g. I'm going to plus 3f, and in brackets, negative 2g. Again, numbers treat the numbers. Negative 5, negative 2, multiply gives us 10. The g is a loner, so the g just sticks around. And then we have plus 3 minus 2. So that's going to be 3 times negative 2, giving us negative 6. F and G have nothing to do with one another, so I just leave it as F times G in alphabetical order. That's it. There's my answer. And last but not least here, I have another division. So again, this is going to be 40RS divided by the bottom, negative 5R minus 35R on top over negative 5R on the bottom. Treating the numbers, 40 and negative 5 give me negative 8. Hey, and for my variables, I have an R on the bottom, an R on the top. R divided by R is going to give me 1. So they cancel and go away. I am just left with an S. Last term here, negative 35 over negative 5 is going to give me positive 7. Okay, that's going to give me positive 7. And hey, look, the R's also go away. We love it when things cancel out nicely. Hey, so negative 8S plus 7. All right, so those were the, so I think in the last row of questions, we just had to get used to seeing different variables in the same question and just be okay with the fact that we cannot combine them together. Okay, so that's it. But in the last row, things get a little bit trickier because take a look at inside. It gets a little bit messier inside, and maybe where variables might be able to start canceling out. Ooh, and then I is interesting too. So let's do, actually, I think that you can give G a try. Actually, no. You know what? I'll do G first. Let you try H. How's that? So, same thing as always. This is just the top divided by the bottom. So I have to rewrite this. I'm going to get negative 20x squared, and then I'm going to divide it by my 5x. I'm going to plus 25xy, and then again divide it by 5x. So same idea. When I'm dividing, I still need to look at the numbers themselves. So negative 20 divided by the 5 gives me negative 4. My x's by variables deal with one another. Hey, I have an x squared and an x on the bottom. So one of them cancels out. 2 minus 1 gives me 1 on the top. So that's negative 4x on the top. As for my second term, I have 25 divided by 5. This is just going to give me plus 5. And for my variables, I have an x and an x which will go away, and I am just left with a y. So here's my answer, negative 4x plus 5y. Okay, so there you go. Now I think we can give you a chance to try H yourself. So here's a chance for you to try H yourself. Okay, so hopefully you got a chance to try H yourself. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. So I get 10x squared divided by my negative 2x, okay? And then plus 4xy divided by negative 2x. Minus 6xz divided by negative 2x. And again, the numbers treat the numbers, variables treat the variables. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 gives me a positive 5. My x squared divided by x gives me a single x. Next up, I have 4 divided by negative 2. This is just going to be negative 2. And next up here, I get my x and the x canceling out, leaving me with just a y. And then here I have negative 6 over negative 2. And if I have minus 6, it's the same as treating it as plus. If a minus 6 is like plus negative 6. So it's the same idea. That will give me negative and a negative plus 3, in which my x and the x will cancel out, and I will be left with a z. So here we go. That is our answer for H. Okay, so here we go. Let's do the last one. So I'm in I. I'm going to show us a little trick, okay? And this is why I didn't ask us to do this one. The reason why I say there is a trick in this one is because a lot of my students are just going to go ahead and they're going to go, these polynomials here, I'm going to break down the brackets, and then I'm going to divide the 4x in here to simplify. But have we thought of any way we can simplify what's inside the brackets before we divide by the 4x? Because if we have to rewrite this out, I'm going to do it in green because green have a smaller pen tip. If I have to actually carry out with this division, I have to divide 4 terms by 4x. But if we take a look at this carefully, notice that there are a few like terms inside this particular long polynomial inside my brackets. So why won't we go ahead and try to simplify that first, so that we have something smaller that we can divide 4x by. So doing that, we need to first subtract polynomials inside these brackets. To do that, we need to dissolve the brackets and flip all of the signs inside our second polynomial. So that's going to look like the following. Okay, so the 3x squared plus the 5xy are just going to come out normally. And then all of these signs will be flipped. So this is an imaginary plus sign here. I'm going to minus the 6x squared. And minusing a negative is going to give me a plus 4xy. And then all of this divided by a 4x on the bottom. So actually I'm going to use the round bracket instead of the square ones, because we've kind of dissolved the round ones already. So right off the bat, you can see how some of these can combine. I have a 3x squared here and a negative 6x squared. So 3x squared minus 6x squared, that's going to give me minus 3x squared. Okay, so that's, I don't have space to write it, otherwise I would. But hopefully at this point you'll be a little bit more comfortable with subtracting polynomials. Here I have plus 5xy plus 4xy. So 5 plus 4 gives me 9. And of course this is xy, so this is plus 9xy. Well, isn't that much easier to do, divide by 4x, than the whole thing that we had above? Rewriting all of that, finally we're going to get minus 3x squared divided by 4x plus 9xy divided by 4x. Again, the numbers treat the numbers, so that first one looks really ugly. I'm going to get negative 3 over 4. And you know what? You don't even have to write this as a decimal if you don't want to. And this fraction looks pretty simplified already, so you can just leave it as is. Then next I'm going to deal with the x's, in which one of the x's on the top is going to cancel out with one of the x's on the bottom. So that's x to the power 2 divided by x to the power of 1. That leaves me with just one x on the top. So I am left with just the single x like that. Okay. And last but not least, I have the 9 and the 4 added together. Oh, sorry, adding whatever's coming up next. So 9 divided by 4, and of course, if there is no way to simplify that, then we just leave it as is, and that's fine to leave it as a fraction. There's nothing wrong with that. And then, of course, these variables cancel out. My x cancels out with the x, so I'm just left with the y. So this, in fact, is our final answer. And some of you might have been tempted to write it in a decimal form. So if you got 0.75 x plus, what is this? This is 2.25 y. Then I wouldn't mark you incorrect. However, I always prefer that you leave your answer in fractional form. And mixed number is not necessary. In fact, not preferred if possible. And it's more work for you. So anyhow, those are the examples for multiplying polynomials. And of course, I feel that I really need to give you a little bit of a challenge. So let me just add another page here in the bottom, and I'll give you maybe a little tougher problem to try out. Okay, so here is my example that I just made. So maybe why don't you give this a try? Good time to pause the video? Okay, so in this tough example, I've included both a monomial at the top for multiplication and the monomial at the bottom for dividing. So many of you are going to think, oh, well, I'm just going to do my multiplication first, and then I'm going to do my division. But keep in mind that try to make your life easier sometimes. There's many ways you can do that. And to do that, you really need to understand what is happening here. Really, I have a monomial that is multiplying this at the top, but technically speaking, this monomial at the bottom is dividing whatever is at the top. So, why won't I go ahead and try to simplify anything that I see in here with anything that I see in there? If there's anything I can simplify from any of that, then that's going to make my life a lot easier. If I go ahead and do that, right off the bat, I have a negative sign on the top and a negative sign on the bottom. We know when we divide negatives, a negative divided by a negative, it's just going to give me a positive, okay? So right off the get-go, I've just simplified my problem by dealing with it's like my problems clash with one another and it gets rid of my problems or something. So imagine that can happen in life, which oftentimes does not. So there you go. I have just dealt with one of the things there. Hey, and guess what? I have a y here on the bottom, which is y squared, and I have one other y at the top. Now, even though I can't completely cancel out all the y's, I can cancel out one of them. Because technically speaking, this one down here is just y times y. Right? I have one y at the top of my fraction. So why won't one of the y's just go away? Haha. And if that were the case, then I'm going to get the following. Let's rewrite all of this. Now that we've simplified it, I get 3x squared. Notice this y has gone away, and then everything inside my brackets still is intact. Then the bottom, I've lost one of the y's, so I just have y here on the bottom. Okay, so let's do the top first. Yeah, let's deal with the top first. Let's do with multiplication first, because that's usually the most straightforward one with most of us. So when we deal with the top, we just ignore the y that's at the bottom. Okay, just don't think about it. Do one thing at a time. Don't try to overwhelm yourself mentally. Not that I'm helping you much, but okay, so let's deal with the distribution. Okay, so after we distribute that, we're going to get 4xy squared times the 3x squared minus, oopsie, sorry, that was in brackets, minus this one here, y squared, and then it's gonna be multiplied by the 3x here again, so that's 3x squared like that. Alright, so after I distribute that, I write everything over y, not dealing with y just yet. Okay, so once I do that, I am going to, again, with the multiplication, the 4 times the 3, that's going to give me my 12. And then my variables. Oh, hey, I got some different variables involved. And actually, no, that's just not too bad. So I have x times x squared. Okay, so x times x squared is just x to the power of 3 according to exponent laws. The y squared has nothing to work with. It's just like it's its own little fraction in terms of when I... Sorry, I was thinking about my board game again. So y squared by itself, it's its own little group or its own little clan. So it has nobody to pair with, so we just leave it as is. Next up, our next term is the y squared and a 3x squared. So again, I still have to subtract, and there's no other minus sign, so that's going to remain as a minus sign, and a 3 is right there, and there's nothing to pair with a 3, so that's it. The y squared and the x squared have nothing to do with one another, so I'm just going to record them, copy and paste them down, of course in alphabetical order for communication's sake. All of that divided by our y, and then we do the next thing. Okay, the next thing is we are going to divide every single term by our y. So that is 12x to the power of 3, y to the power of 2, divided by y minus 3x squared y squared over y. Okay, so that's what I would do next. Now, the reason why I want to show you this method, I want to show you this step, is because a lot of students will make a very common mistake especially going from this step, they tend to not write the step I've shown below and just give me the final answer. This is what they will give me. I'm going to write this in red just to show that this is incorrect. After I've written the incorrect answer, I like you to just pause the video and to find the mistake. So here we go. I have 12 x to the power 3. One of the y's here go away, so we get y minus 3x squared y squared. Okay? So, of course, this is wrong. Good time to pause the video and identify the mistake. So if you said that mistake is right here because the student forgot to divide the second term by y, you are correct. So that is that's the mistake that I often find all the time. Oopsies. So please don't be that person. Don't make that mistake. And if you're the type of person who tends to make these silly mistakes, or you're not very careful, or you tend to lose focus, you're not very detail-oriented, then write all of your steps down, like I've shown here. So write this step, even though it looks really redundant and silly and dumb, and you know you can do it in your head, write it down. Whatever you write down is less things that you have to process in your brain. It's like your short-term memory. Like a computer. A computer always wants to relay whatever's on its short-term in its RAM onto a hard disk. It frees up space, the working memory, for you as well. So let's simplify this. So the numbers are pretty much going to stay intact because the variable is we're only dividing by a variable. So there's no cancellation or no simplification with our numbers. So I can just go ahead and write the 12. Now for the x to the cube, there's nothing down on the bottom to divide that by, so that's going to stay intact, but the y's will divide. So y squared divided by y is going to give me y. And then my second term, I'm going to keep my minus sign because there's no other minus signs inside the second term. So I have minus 3. My x's are going to stay the same because there's no other x's here to pair up with. But the y squared divided by y will go away. So y squared divided by y is going to give me a single y, and done. Done deal. We are finished. Our final answer is 12x to the power of 3 times y minus 3x squared y. Be careful. Please do not simplify this one, because are these like terms? No, they are not like terms. There's a 3 here, and there's a 2 here. Okay, these are not like terms. So you cannot simplify them anymore. Okay, so that's our final answer. Okay, so there you go. This is dealing with multiplying and dividing polynomials by a monomial. Please be very comfortable with this kind of doing this kind of work, and the harder problems will be revolved around something related to this. So again, good for you for making all the way to the end of this video, and I wish you the best of luck with your practices. Thank you for watching, and Fat Mama Physics, signing out!